Hello everyone, it's Keone Mahoshi Fan 3 Michael here. It's about 7:50 p.m. on the evening of 9/11 and I'm going to go through another tropical update with you. We got a lot to talk about in this one, and I apologize I can't do a more professional looking video. I wish I had time to make a better quality video, screencast my desktop instead of doing it like this, but anyway, I hope this will be okay. I just want to get this update out there. I'm trying not to shake the phone too much, but anyway, the main thing is I just want y'all to hear what I have to tell you. Okay, so right now, there's been some changes on the models today, and some things are have changed, and we need to go over those things now. So I want to talk about the potential path, go over the model runs for that, and potential impact as well. Okay, and since I live in Columbia, South Carolina, and have friends and family watching in Columbia, South Carolina, I'll try to go through that more specifically later in the video. But let's take a look at this, the overview on the Hurricane Center page first. We can see we got our Hurricane Florence out here, and it's a Category 4 right now. And I think last I checked, it was back to 140 miles per hour winds around the eye. So Category 4 status. Very powerful hurricane that's going to cause extreme impact for the coast as we go forward here. The Carolinas, and even further away as well, well inland with impact. Very serious situation unfolding. Everybody on the coast should be gone, where the evacuation orders have been issued. It's just not looking good, everybody. I'm so sorry to say, this looks rather catastrophic. We also got Isaac, Tropical Storm Isaac out here that we'll need to watch. It's heading toward the Lesser Antilles. They need to be watching that. Also more of the islands up here, depending on where it goes, may have to be watching it as well. We got Hurricane Helene out here, and then an area to watch over here in the Gulf of Mexico. So just a lot of things going on. The season finally ramped back up. Now, I'm going to go through what the National Hurricane Center says about the track first. Okay, so what we have is the cone of uncertainty. As you can see, it could go anywhere within the cone. So anybody in the cone should be prepared for the system. Everybody on the coast, everybody on South Carolina coast, everybody on North Carolina coast needs to be ready for direct landfall possibility. And then everybody inland in this area needs to be ready for inland impact as well. Okay? So let's take a look here. So they say, okay, it's probably still a major hurricane when it makes landfall up here, if it makes landfall, right? So it's got major hurricane. Now, the middle line is the most likely path, and this is what the National Hurricane Center is saying. They think it's going to hit, okay, southeast North Carolina is major hurricane, maybe around Wilmington area, and then it's going to curve. It's going to curve and move inland, and this motion maybe like around North Carolina, South Carolina border, or, right around there, it's going to move inland. So that's the best thinking from the National Hurricane Center, but it could go anywhere in the cone, right? So that's important to remember. And you can see how it slows down, okay? As it gets to the coast, it's going to stall out a little bit, it's going to slow down, it's just going to be a mess, because when it stalls out, that means more rainfall, right? So that's looking like a complete mess there. Extremely heavy rain for much of the Carolinas and inland, well inland, as the system moves through. Okay, because the rainfall will go well inland, okay, and flooding will go well inland. So that's important to remember. And then you also have wind impact that will go well inland as well. It could stay tropical storm status, a little ways inland, right? And then you have to think about how big the wind field is. Okay, so, well inland you could have those impacts with the wind as well. I mean, the worst of the wind will be right around the eye where it hits land, but of course the winds will spread out a good ways, right? Inland, higher winds. So that's that information. And speaking of the winds, that's what I'm talking about here. You can see that, even well inland, there's a great chance of tropical storm winds. And in looking at Columbia, South Carolina's location, it looks like about, what color is that? About 50 or 60% chance. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. It's about 3. That's about 3 or 4. That's 3 colors up. So 1, 2, 3. That's like a 50% chance of tropical storm winds, 39 to 73 miles per hour in Columbia, South Carolina area. So I would, on the track that they've got, when it hits Wilmington and then goes up around North Carolina, South Carolina border inland, I mean that kind of path could very well still mean tropical storm winds in Columbia, South Carolina, or at least tropical storm gust, which is enough to cause power outages and those sorts of things. Okay, so that's a big deal. And then, of course, you're also looking at the heavy rain while inland. So that's the chance of tropical storm winds right there. Here's a look at the arrival of the tropical storm winds. This is estimated now, but you can see by late Wednesday evening, Wednesday night, into Thursday morning, we could already have tropical storm winds coming on shore, and then later during the day, those will spread inland. There's tropical storm winds, and of course, closer to the coast, along the coast, you'll be looking at the hurricane winds, more than likely, but those will arrive later than the tropical storm winds will. But everything should be prepared before the tropical storm winds make it, okay? And everybody should be evacuated. Everything should be ready to go before the tropical storm winds come, because those are pretty strong those are pretty strong too. And you're not going to be able to make any more preparations, and it's going to be hard to be on the road, and you should just already be ready to go by then. Okay, so let's take a look at the models here, because there are a lot of uncertainties as we go forward. Okay, now here's the new Eurocontrol. Let's take a look at what the Eurocontrol did today. Okay, so here it is right here on Friday. It has the center right around Wilmington. Okay, I'm going to try to zoom in this time, but you can see right around Wilmington area, around North Carolina, South Carolina border maybe, but right in there around Wilmington, it's got the center. Okay, now what happens then? Oh, hang on, let me back up. I didn't have this backed up all the way. Okay, here we go. So here's the Eurocontrol, the last Eurocontrol run. It comes up to around the southeast North Carolina, meanders a little bit, and then it goes down the South Carolina coast. And it has it moving into the Savannah area, and then the storm moves inland. That's a very unique storm. Very unique storm track. I don't think there's any track on our verified tropical weather history records, in the recorded tropical weather history. I don't think there's any path on record that's done that. I really don't think so. But I mean, that's really rare for that to happen. It's, to go in North Carolina first and then come down like that. That's very rare. That's a very rare path. Okay. Now let's take a look at GFS, which shifted more toward the Euro. Okay, let's see what it did. Let's take a look at that. Here comes the GFS. Well, it's going to take a minute to load. Hopefully it'll load for us in a minute, I hope. But it basically moved toward the Euro, okay? We might not actually be able to load it. I mean, there's very high traffic on this website with these models. We might not get it. Okay, there it is. I'm going to try to back up again. Okay, so there's GFS. It comes up toward the North Carolina, South Carolina border around Wilmington, meanders, then goes down the South Carolina coast, and then inward, and it's got the center going over Columbia, South Carolina, and then it moves inland. So it kind of like does like a hook. It just kind of hooks back into South Carolina coast. So that's rather interesting that it is something like the Euro, right? Because the Euro has the basic concept of that as well. Exactly where the hook happens, is to be determined, but both Euro and GFS have that, where it comes down back to the South Carolina coastline and moves inland. CMC, it's at the Outer Banks to the CMC. I don't think it's going to go that far north. I mean, it's still possible. When you think about it, that was in the cone of uncertainty, right? Could still happen. It could go way up there, but I don't think that's especially likely. But it could. Now let's take a look at the Euro ensembles and see what's going on with those. I think I accidentally closed out that tab where it had the mean on it. Oh no, I didn't. Okay, let me see if I can find it real quick. This is a good site here, the Southern Weather, the American Weather Forums, and I've also been tracking the Southern Weather. The Southern Weather Forums is good too. I've been tracking things with those forums. They're very good at posting updates here. Oh, here it is. Here's my Euro ensembles. Okay. So basically the Euro ensembles have moved that direction too, with the idea, okay, it gets around North Carolina, South Carolina border, and then it's going to move inland somewhere, right? It's got the Euro ensembles coming westward, you got some of them going more down the coast of South Carolina. If you notice the mean, it's kind of hard to see there, the bold line, but it does come down the South Carolina coast and then hooks inland. So, that's rather interesting, right? So that would increase the impacts for inland South Carolina if it does this, and you can see more of the strong winds and more of the rain down into South Carolina with this kind of scenario. I do think it would weaken on the coast. It would probably weaken some as it came down, but it just kind of depends on how much of it is over the land and how much is over the water. But I would expect for it to weaken if it hugged the coast, especially. Maybe if it was just off, it might be able to hold more of its intensity a little bit, but it's going to probably weaken some. It might get close to the North Carolina, South Carolina, North Carolina, South Carolina border, Wilmington area. It might be Category 4 up there, but then I think it would probably weaken some when it moved back downward because of interaction with land. More than likely, but it could still be a hurricane further down. When it makes a second landfall, it could still be a hurricane. And then when it moves inland, it would at some point weaken the tropical storm status, right? So this is the Euro ensemble, so it does show us it's agreeing with Euro and GPS on the basic concepts, right? So I think it is possible that something like that could happen. I think basically what we're looking at, it goes up to around North Carolina, South Carolina border, Wilmington area, somewhere in there, and then moves inland. It could just go due west, or it might go northwest from there, go along the South Carolina, North Carolina border, or it might go southwestward, back along the coast, and then up through South Carolina, or it might just kind of meander down into South Carolina. A lot of options on exactly how this is going to shake out. But something like that is what we're looking at. Okay, so that was the basic rundown of the model's situation. As you can see now, we got our hurricane warning. Hurricane warnings in some of these coasts here around Myrtle Beach, up through North Carolina, and got hurricane warnings to Hatteras. And then we got down here that looks to be a hurricane watch in Charleston. And you can see we even got some inland hurricane watches and tropical storm watches almost to Raleigh there. So definitely, a crazy situation. And I know we got storm surge watches and warnings too from many of these places. I'm expecting extreme storm surge. Okay, so now we've gone through that and what we think with the path, okay, and the possibilities with that. Now, the exact path, strength, and size of the storm would depend on exactly what your area sees, okay? Where the eye makes landfall, okay, that's where the extreme wind's going to be the highest wind, okay? But you're still going to have heavy rain and wind well inland, and exactly to what extent that takes place where you are will depend on the strength, size, and placement of the storm, right? And also, if you're in the north, if you end up on the northeast side of the storm, that's the worst part of the storm, right? Where you might see some of the higher winds and even heavier rain. And also it has, if you end up further away from the storm, you're going to get less wind and rain. If you're closer to the storm, you're going to get more rain and wind, right? And then, so that's going to be important, and how it meanders and where it goes when it stalls out, where it's meandering at, all that will go into play on what exactly inland areas like Columbia, South Carolina sees, but you're talking about possible big impacts here for many of these inland cities, you know, Columbia, Charlotte, you know, all, you know, just all, you know, all around, all throughout the region, inland, okay? And out through North Carolina, Virginia's, and, you know, for even, you know, and those kinds of areas as well. So this was the Euro estimated rainfall. Now this is based on the current Euro tracks, and it kind of shifts the rain further southwest than we've seen previously, because of the change in track. Well, this was from the last Euro, I believe, and you can see now Columbia has maybe like 6 to 7 inches of rain. I would just say 6 to 8. I would say like 6 to 8 inches, probably 6 to 8 inches of rain, and that's enough to cause flash flooding for sure, and enough to cause issues, right? I mean, look at over here, you have even higher amounts to our east and up here in southeastern North Carolina. I mean, you're talking about extreme rain over here, right? You could get 20 plus inches of rain in some of these portions of southeast North Carolina, maybe even up here in eastern South Carolina as well. You could get extreme totals. So catastrophic flooding, okay, in some of these places in these white colors and gray colors. That's just really bad. That is really, really, really bad. Okay, so, and then inland, you'll see heavy rain as well throughout the region. Okay, so this would be like 6 to 8 inches for Columbia. Now, the rain totals you end up seeing will depend on exactly on where the storm goes and what ends up happening, right? Let's take a look at the wind gust simulation from the Euro, which I saw. I think this was it here, right? We'll take this out a good while, and it's going to tell us like the max wind gust. And you can see you got tropical storm wind gusts well inland. Okay. That's like probably maybe over 50 miles per hour in Columbia, maybe like 50 to 60 miles per hour. Something like that, just an estimate. Of course, along the coast, you got way more. I mean, you could have, you know, wind gust, well over 60 miles per hour, like down the coast here. And, you know, depending on what status it is when it's coming down the South Carolina coast. But of course, you know, wherever it makes landfall would be like extreme winds, you know, where it makes landfall at, you know, could see Category 4 winds. So that's just crazy. But this shows us how far inland the tropical storm winds will go. And I do think Columbia, South Carolina has a chance of tropical storm winds for sure, with this system. You know, that's like, you know, 39 to 73 miles per hour wind. We could definitely see that. I wouldn't be surprised if we had sustained winds in that range. And then, of course, at least gust, highly possible in that range. And it could get pretty bad, to say the least. You know, even inland with this wind. So that's terrible. That is terrible. So we're talking about very high impact event, okay, for the coast and well inland into the Carolinas. This is high impact. This is going to be a very severe scenario, catastrophic scenario. It's just looking worse in a lot of ways, right? And especially because the system will be around for a while, because it slows down and stalls out. You know, it's just going to be really bad. And you see here, through the weekend, it's still causing problems, right? That is just, I don't know. It's just really scary. It's not looking good. So what, you know, I just really hope everybody's prepared, okay? I hope everybody's taking it seriously. Everybody on the coast should be evacuated, or going to be leaving. Don't stay there on the coast. Please don't do that. Don't do that. With the storm surge and the flooding and the heavy wind, you do not want to be there. You need to leave the coast, okay? Get somewhere safer. Please get somewhere safer And even people inland should be prepared for power outages. They will be widespread. You may be without power for an extended period. You need to prepare for that possibility. Okay, because this is a real this is really looking very likely for a catastrophic event. I wish there was a way for it to turn out to sea, but that just looks like it's not going to happen. I mean, impact is pretty certain at this point. Exact to what extent, and depending on where your area is, to what extent your area sees it, okay, that's still up in the air. But it's going to be making impacts. It's going to be causing problems. So we just need everybody to remain calm and stay safe, okay? And we'll be okay if everybody prepares. Alright, so this was my new update. I might try to do another update tomorrow. It could look completely different tomorrow. I mean, there's still time for this to change. It could still change. So, just very uncertain situation here. But we're doing the best we can to think about what's most likely and what's probably going to happen. Okay, was there anything else I needed to say? I think I said everything I needed to say. But I highly recommend the American Weather Forums and the Southern Weather Forums. They are very good sites to look at where a lot of people contribute to the discussions. So that they're good sites to look at. Alright, well, I hope you have a good evening. Stay safe, everyone. Talk to you later.